Hey, remember when some random YouTube guy said that the Pro 3 had a much edgier sound than the Matriarch, and the Matriarch was a bit more rounded and mellow sounding?
I would say the Pro 3 is a great option. Has a little bit more of an edge to it.
Me neither. And when I first got into analog synths, I thought, man, a couple of detuned sawtooth oscillators sound really good. So what would probably sound even better is 1 million analog sawtooth oscillators. Well, turns out that at some point, a bunch of detuned analog oscillators just start to sound like pink noise. And in spite of having learned this, once I saw my Matriarch and its 4 oscillators sitting in front of my Eurorack system with a lot more oscillators, yeah, it still had to happen. In this part 2 of my Matriarch and Eurorack series, don't worry if you missed the first one, wait till the end of this video. Please, for the love of God, don't click away. We're going to explore a modified version of this monster drone idea that I had however many years ago that was. Modified in the sense that it's not going to sound like garbage, because I'm going to be adding just a little bit of harmonic and rhythmic interest with the LFOs here in my modular system. And hopefully, in theory, that's going to make this sound much more musically usable and less like the noise machine that sits on my nightstand. Effectively, what we are doing today is adding the Rossum Trident, which is all sent into a mixer in my Eurorack. That is going into the Matriarch's mixer, so then everything is routed through the Matriarch's filters, the Matriarch's envelopes, the VCA, the delay, all of it, making this a 7 oscillator power synth. To get external sounds into the mixer on the Matriarch, you're going to feed that into the noise input. At that point, your noise attenuator, that's the word, becomes your level for that external source. So before I even get to that, I'm just going to enter drone mode, which seems like the logical thing to do for this patch. And we're just going to hear what the 4 oscillators all sound playing in unison. They're all sawtooth, they're slightly detuned for a little bit of beating. And if we drive the oscillators hard into this mixer, it's going to distort in a really nice way. And when we bring in the external oscillators, it's going to distort even further and start to really break apart and create some interesting things that I love when you hear a mixer, an analog mixer that's really struggling to keep up. It's a really nice way of breaking up the sound. Now I'm going to shut up and do that. So you can hear that's just the 4 oscillators of the Matriarch. I'm gonna drive the mixer. A lot of low end in that. Now the Trident is set up for each of its oscillators. There are 3 of them. Trident. All 3 of them are set up as pulse waves. And what that's going to allow us to do is create some rhythmic interest by modulating the pulse width with the quad LFO. All that the Eloquencer is doing in this patch is sending some gates and triggers to the quad LFO and getting the quad LFO moving. It's the master clock for my system in this case. The only thing I have patched in on the Matriarch itself is an expression pedal. It's down there. And that is coming into an attenuator so that I can adjust the cutoff frequency of the low pass filter with my foot. And then obviously the output of the mixer here, which is mixing all of my oscillators from the Trident, is coming in to the Matriarch's mixer, as I already said. So I'm going to turn down each of the Matriarch's oscillators. Enter drone mode. We don't hear anything until I bring in the Trident with the noise attenuator. So now if I bring in the Matriarch's oscillators, we hear the mixer struggling in a good way. If I pull the Trident back a little bit in the mixer, you can hear the Matriarch's drones coming through a bit more clearly. It send that through the delay now. Oh yeah. Now I've got the Matriarch's 2 filters set up in series, high pass and low pass. So filter 1 becomes a high pass filter. I can roll off the low end, bring it back in, and the second filter is a low pass filter, as you would expect. Anytime you increase the resonance on the low pass filter, you get that classic Moog ladder filter, low end disappears, right? It is what it is. All right, that's nice. So that gives us a bit of modulation for the Trident, but I want to have it do some rhythmic things that I can play along with and maybe create, I don't know, some music with this patch. Whoa. Back into drone mode we go. And I'm going to start the Eloquencer, which is going to set the quad LFO doing its automated modulated thing that I pre-programmed. And I'm going to bring the level up. And I should probably plug the clock input back into the quad LFO so that it resets the way that I want it to. There it is. Cool. Again, all of the rhythmic stuff is just coming from the quad LFO from Moleco, fantastic module, which is just being reset and clocked by the Eloquencer. And that is being fed into the Trident and affecting the pulse width. That's all that's happening here. It's through zero modulation of the pulse width. That's why you hear it cutting in and out like that. So that's effectively it for this patch. So in true Andrew Huang style, except with less camera movement because I'm much lazier, I think I'm going to make something with it. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you want to see part 3 of this series, subscribe to the channel and ring the little bell down there somewhere. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps me out. And you can click over here and see part 1 if you did not see that one yet. I talk a little bit more about the eloquencer and sequencing each of these oscillators independently. I still don't know how to end these videos.